Two for the man in the white suit.
White suit.
Folks, please have your tickets out ready for the man in the white suit.
Ready.
Thank you. Hi there.
And this is what it's about, this little talk here, about the Ig Nobel Prizes and the man in the white suit. First, just to give you a bit of context about the Ig Nobel Prizes, and this also is about the magazine, and sad to say about pretty much everything I do professionally, it's all about things that make people laugh and then make them think. Things that have the quality, when you first hear about it, it's funny. You almost have no choice but to react that way. And a week later, it's still rattling around in your head. This is the man in the white suit. This is the hero of the movie. I wanted to show you the picture right at the start before I show you some other things, because if this were not just a fictional character, were this a real person doing what you'll see done in the movie, he would be a very strong candidate to win an Ig Nobel Prize. Last year, 2009, one of the Ig Nobel Prizes went to 3 people, but the first name is the main driver here, Dr. Elena Bodnar. They won a prize for inventing a brassiere that in an emergency can be quickly converted into a pair of protective face masks. One for the brassiere wearer and one to protect some lucky bystander. This is from their patent, as you can see. This also is from the patent. And here's Dr. Bodnar at the ceremony. She gave us one of these, and Robin, could I ask you to come up here and either demonstrate or just show, depending on whatever you'd like to do. Here is a Bodnar bra. And if you could unhook it. Yeah.
Putting my own white lab suit on, I was charged to look into why it is so hard to make fabric that does not wear out. Covalent bonds are the strongest bonds between atoms. Electrons are shared and quantum states are shared. It holds the molecules together. Bonds form between certain molecules, certain special molecules, which join and extend into polymer chains. Polymer chains become entangled and extended, extruded into fibers. The fibers are spun into thread. Thread is woven into cloth. The strength of the fabric is those covalent bonds.
Why do we need humanoids? But before that, the famous architect Louis Sullivan once said, form follows function. So this means that an object shape and size is determined by its function, what it needs to be, what the task that it needs to carry out. If you talk to some scientists in the United States, there's a certain group of people who want to build human robots to understand us humans better. A good example is, if you want to build a prosthetic arm or prosthetic leg, we need to understand how humans walk. We walk, we take it for granted, but we still don't exactly understand the mechanics and dynamics of how people walk. So now I'm going to talk about Charlie. Charlie stands for Cognitive Humanoid Autonomous Robot with Learning Intelligence. L stands for lightweight. So this picture, this is Charlie, and that's a real soccer ball in a real soccer field. So you can figure out the size of this robot. It's a true big adult-sized humanoid robot. It's pretty remarkable. So this is the very first time we succeeded in walking. Now, it might not look much, but trying to make a robot walk with 2 legs is a very, very challenging problem.
And so, in fact, I found this something that didn't cause me to feel like, well, this movie is just a fake with a lot of weird action. It actually seemed pretty consistent. So let's look at it again. And I'm going to actually go through it scene by scene, obviously, frame by frame. You'll notice actually the thief kicks the bale, whatever it is. So the bale goes moving off to the left from your viewpoint, and the thief recoils to the right. Pretty much as one would expect. In fact, we can be a little bit more quantitative about this as well. The thief didn't recoil all that much. The thief didn't recoil as much as the object did, Well, that tells us that the object has to be less massive, has to weigh less than the thief himself.
So yeah, computer people love crazy names and crazy computers. And then I found this book, and the book was called Out of the Inner Circle by Bill Landreth. And part of this movie you'll see is based on Bill Landreth. He was like the first teenage kid to get busted for hacking. And through Microsoft Press, thank you Microsoft, he wrote a book about how to hack. And it was called Out of the Inner Circle. And in the movie you'll hear people talk about the red book and the green book. Those were for real grown-up hackers. I was a punk 15-year-old kid. You know, I got this book and it told me an awful lot that was incredibly useful for me to know. And one of the things that really impressed upon me is how easy hacking often was. So for example, you'll hear, in the old days, you would hear about people phreaking the phone system, and you'll hear some about that in the movie. And the way they would do it is through these blue boxes that would emit a 2600 hertz tone. Because the phone system was so simple, like for debugging, you know, for testing the phone system, you know, the repairman would have this thing, it would emit this tone, it would let them make a free call anywhere. And people figured this out, so they started making their own boxes. And even more horrifyingly, someone figured out that if you bought a box of Captain Crunch, it had the little plastic whistle. If you put your finger over one of the holes and blew, it would make exactly a 2600 hertz tone. And so people were using these whistles to make free phone calls all over the place. And this notion became so much part of hacker culture. You remember the Atari 2600? Do you ever wonder how it got that name? It didn't have 2600 of anything in it, but the guys who were making it were using it as a blue box in order to make free phone calls. And so when management said, you got to come up with a number for this thing, they said, how about 2600?
We are very grateful to our sponsors for this series. The series is co-presented by the Museum of Science Boston and New Scientist magazine, and we would very much like to acknowledge our fiscal sponsors, Britt Darbeloff, Gesmer Updegrove LLP, and our series founder, Richard Anders, who is in the audience tonight.